And that leads us to Apple. It's rallied a lot over the last 3 months, really after being sort of a sideways trade. This stock has definitely picked up, and it's right ahead of that event they're holding today on the iPhone, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Dan Ives, I told you, of Wedbush is out here with us, too, at Future Proof. We welcome him to the conversation. It's nice to see you.
Great to be here.
You know, some have said this is the most inconsequential, if not insignificant, iPhone event that Apple has held in arguably many, many years. Is that how you see it, too?
Yeah, look, I'd say it's, really apathy from an investor perspective going into the event because there's really no major hardware changes. I mean, obviously a little thinner, probably going to be about $50 to $100 more given maybe some of the tariff issues. But the reality is that the elephant in the room continues to be AI when they double down the Gemini partnership. Now that the DOJ stuff's cleared. Cook's played great in the sandbox in D.C. now, with Trump, and that's removed a part of the overhang. And look, Scott, my view is like expectations. If we thought back a year ago, super cycle, which really obviously was a little disappointing. Now you have 315 million that haven't upgraded their iPhone in 4 years. Expectations are very low. And I think the sentiment combined with what ultimately is going to probably be an AI catalyst, I think Apple, we sit here a year from now, and Apple's probably, a stock that I believe is probably 30–40% higher.
I mean, the reason why 315 million people haven't upgraded their phones in over 4 years is because the company hasn't given them a reason to do so.
Yeah. Look, it goes back to every Apple event. I mean, you've been many of them. I feel like Michael J. Fox Back to the Future, right? I mean, it's been sort of, they've missed so many of the sort of AI trades that you're seeing. But I do believe clock struck midnight. Cook and Cupertino recognized it. They waited for that DOJ situation. That's cleared. Now it comes down to they walk down the aisle with Google and Gemini in terms of that huge partnership. And that really also takes out the chance that Perplexity.
Do you have an estimate on how many people will upgrade on the 17? Do you think it's a big number?
So we think right now, if you look, ultimate expectations are you have about 7 to 8% iPhone growth. With you're probably going to have 225, 230 million units that they sell. Look, and I like that setup. The expectations relative to the stock. And iPhone 17, the big key is going to be China, because you have 100 million in China that have an upgrade, starting to see some sentiment improvement there. And I think right now, look, overall, even though you've had a move here, I mean, the cab driver here in Huntington Beach is negative and bearish on Apple.
You know what the deal is? Those people you say who are bearish, they're just not talking about the company nor the stock in ways that they used to. That may be the biggest problem that Apple has right now.
Yeah, I think it is a problem, but it's a sleeping giant. You have the biggest install base in the world, 1.5 billion iPhones, 2.4 billion iOS devices. And that's why I continue to think Cook, every time you count him out, and there have been some called for, maybe he's not going to be the CEO to lead into this next era. I believe he is. And I think they've been late. But guess what? You could be late when you have the best install base in the world. And that's why I believe ultimately this is probably stock risk reward on large cap. It was Alphabet. Now this is probably more the table pounder relative to the next 6–12 months, given some of the catalysts that could happen.
As a shareholder, do you believe that?
I hope Dan's right. The problem with Apple historically has been, okay, we understand it's a sleeping giant. At some point, there will be this upgrade cycle. But how much of that is in the stock? What's your PE on next year's numbers? Is it 31, 32 right now?
Yeah, but I also believe the one thing, if you look at it straight PE, I think what you're missing is what the AI opportunity, $100 per share, could be to Apple. And I'd factor right now, like no one is factoring that in with that ultimately.
An additional $100 per share from AI?
I believe.
How do you or from multiple expansions?
The monetization is going to be about 70% of that's going to come from. They're essentially going to build an AI app store that I believe is ultimately going to be the highway for AI when it comes to the consumer. And I think that will ultimately be the super cycle that plays out. You could be wrong in a year. And I think, Scott, what that does is if you look at numbers, street, you look at the next 2 or 3 years, you're probably underestimating where numbers could go by 30%.
Steph, you have skepticism around that? You had this stock.
I don't own it, and I wouldn't buy it here after the rally it's had. I just don't think they're anywhere to be found in terms of AI. I can pick a whole bunch of names in technology that have AI and are benefiting from it and are monetizing it. And go back to Broadcom. That's one of the reasons why the stock has totally re-rated, because they did get AI right. So I'm not saying that AI, they're not going to get AI. Dan, but I just don't think I don't think you're going to see a super cycle on 17 because they don't have it. So I think it might be 18, and that's fine. They'll get it eventually, but it's not 17.
Yeah. Good point.
All right, well, we'll see top of the hour. And we'll talk to you again. Dan Ives here at Future Proof. Thank you so much for that.